Today, Rickey is going to be sharing some insights into how he approaches customer service and keeping his customers happy. So he's got a background in hospitality, and his specialty in business is really customer happiness. And, you know, we've had the privilege here of really seeing that firsthand, because we see customers coming in, showing up, repeat customers, and you can just tell that they're really bought in on Rickey and on the brand, not just on the product itself. So I was super fascinated by this, spending very little on marketing and advertising. He chose to spend mainly his first year connecting with his customers and building an organic market, making him one of the leading distributors of GoldSeaMoss in the world. So Rickey sells 4 different varieties of GoldSeaMoss on his website, which is GoldSeaMoss.com, and all are sourced from St. Lucia. So Rickey, you can take it away. We have Saltbox members in Atlanta and in Dallas as well. So just keep that in mind.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Leslie. That I appreciate that introduction. Yes, as she stated, I am the owner of GoldSeaMoss.com. I actually just started another business as well, but I really won't get into that. Is the CMOS directory really is kind of going further into my customer service for the CMOS industry. I do want to touch really quickly on, again, my first year starting the business, not really doing too much marketing, but really focusing on connecting with my customers. So we started January of 2020, right before the pandemic. Wanted to get into more of a smoothie type industry with the CMOS. However, due to the pandemic, we got into wholesale, which switched my customer base completely. I was more consumer. Then I went to business. With that being said, I had to switch up my customer service. So during the pandemic, during CMOS time, what happened with the industry was that they locked the borders down. And so importing and exporting stopped. I probably was one of the last people to get a shipment of CMOS that came in. With that being said, most of my customers end up being business owners, to the point where they already had customers that were actually getting CMOS, but they needed a little bit, they actually needed another supplier. Once we actually went into that and figured out who our customer base was, we looked at what their business already sectioned or catered to, and we kind of helped them with any aspect of that business. It being if they were actually selling gel, we knew that they needed a large quantity at a specific time. So we were pretty much able to cater to people that actually needed gel. With that being said, we didn't grow that fast. However, every customer that we had, every business that we had, we actually connected with on a personal basis. Most people that we actually started off with are still with us. One of them, probably one of the biggest Saltbox members as well, generated 1 million. I'm so proud of them. Shouts out to that company. So with that being said, is my first year was really learning the business as far as CMOS. I already know customer service based on my background. My background is I was an operations manager at a hotel for a few years. I also was a manager at eBay for a few years. So customer service is my background. I love my customers. I think my motto is I'm here to serve. And so anytime I come across the customer, that's what my main specific goal is okay, how can I benefit this person so when they leave my presence, they feel a lot better about the situation. So there's 3 main things I actually look for as far as customer service. 2 of them really are not customer service based. They're more business based. The first one is the quality of your product. So what I've learned throughout my customer service, that if you have bad products, you need a lot of customer service, and you need the best customer service. I'll give you an example. Anytime that there was a situation that would happen in the hotel industry, so say that you had a section where the hotel was not functioning properly, your customer service, your front desk is really going to have to put on a show so that people don't see that problem that's over on the side. So with that being said, customer service had to be phenomenal because at that time the product wasn't good. We'll actually go into I think there's 3 levels to a quality of a product. You have good, you have average, and then you have bad. Let's just start with bad. A bad product is going to be is you're probably going to spend a lot of time as a business owner. You're probably going to spend a lot of time and a lot of energy on focusing on your customer service, focusing on how you're going to make your customer happy, because bad products leads to bad reviews. In my industries that I've been in, they always say 1 bad review equals 100 good reviews. So if you get 1 bad review, how can you turn that bad review into a good review? My first year, I actually had 1 bad review. And it's only a bad review for about 2 weeks. I was able to switch it over as far as because it actually wasn't my issue. It's actually a USPS issue. However, it is still a part of your business. With that being said, is I actually had to compensate that person immensely to actually change that 1 bad review.
So,
However,
Rickey,
yes.
question. So it was like a delayed shipment kind of thing, or was it lost entirely, or?
It was delayed shipment. It was during the Christmas time, Black Friday season. This person was waiting for a shipment. They did not get it. Tracking stated that it was there, but did not show up. And this person, being frustrated, starting a new business, have customers. You know the scenario. The scenario goes that it doesn't matter whose fault it was. I just need my product.
Right.
And so,
was this a wholesale customer?
Pardon me?
Was this one of like your wholesale customers?
Yes, it was a wholesale customer that just actually started her business. So this was her first order. This was her first time dealing with CMOS in its entirety, and it wasn't going good to start off. So after going back and forth as far as with emails and kind of explaining to her, because what happened was that she didn't get her package, and she gave me a 1. She gave me a 1 star, and so I pretty much emailed her and told her that I understood why she was upset. However, me being a business owner, that 1 star hurts. And so what we're going to do right now, we're going to figure out how we take that 1 star to a 5 star. And we had conversation for a day. And by the time we ended our conversation, she already had her package that was coming to her. She was happy, and that 5 star became a 1 star. So, however, if you have a lot of those situations, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to compensate for a bad product or a bad situation. That being said, is that that kind of leads me into what a wonderful place Saltbox is, because it kind of relieves a lot of those issues that I would have had not being in Saltbox. So I'll just end it with that one on there as far as the quality.
Rickey, tell us more. Whatever do you mean by that?
Okay, so, and I'll kind of go into my second thing, which is logistics.
Well, I have one more question
Okay.
back to your previous one. So,
Yes.
You're a 1-man show for the
Yes.
most part, aside from, Saltbox support. So, is it, what kind of recommendations can you give there? Like, do you outsource any of it as far as the customer service goes, or are you the one responding to every single member complaint? Like, can you talk about how to scale that as you grow and grow?
Yes. Well, I started off, it just being me. I do have an assistant now that kind of understands how I operate. And so it's a little bit better now that she can actually come in and take care of some of that for me. However, I'm very personal, and I think with my business is that I'm, regardless of who's working and regardless of who I have over, as far as the customer service and watching these emails and watching these uh, posts that come up, I feel like it's my duty to make sure that I see everything. That I know what's going on. If anybody has an issue, a lot of times now I don't resolve it myself. I actually wait for my team to resolve it, and we have conversations about that afterwards as far as how we need to resolve these certain situations. One thing I will say that is wonderful is that, and I'm not going to brag, but we have a wonderful product, so we don't really have to do too much customer service, uh, and which is excellent. And that's really one of the big things of doing due diligence before you actually get into business is knowing the product that you're having. Like, I wanted to have the best product, and I knew that having the best product means that I really didn't have to worry about customer service as much as what the average person would. I could really focus on my customer, because if you're actually having to, what I would say, compensate as far as what your product's not doing, then you're not really focusing on your customer, you're focusing on how to take them off the product and put them on you. My product speaks for itself. And then what
And
I
you
did,
can be a little more proactive, I guess, instead of
yeah,
like, so yeah, reactive, yeah.
yeah. And so what I do is I just add a little extra spice onto it. So when you got a good product, you just add your little extra spice onto it. They're gonna be happy after that. And I think that's the biggest thing. And so that kind of gets me into what I was going to say as far as logistics. Now in this day and age, everything being where brick and mortar is kind of stopped. I won't say stop, but it's kind of slowed down. You have certain companies that Amazon have stepped to the forefront as far as being the main retailers. Uh, I look at Amazon as their biggest, what they have that's going for them is that their logistics is phenomenal. Um, you get your product very quickly. I think that's what people are looking for now. Reason why, because they're not able to go to shops and not able to shop like they used to. They used to be able to go around the corner and get their products. Sometimes they can't do that now. So if you can't do that, you're still wanting your products as quick as possible. Um, Being at Saltbox, it actually,
Hey, Ricky, can you pause for just a second?
yes,
Drea's got a question for you.
yes, Drea.
Hey, Ricky.
Hello.
Hi. So I was gonna ask, how were you able to get, I guess, those first few customers? Because it's so hard to, for most people to actually find their target market or find, their target customer. Like, I'm assuming with no marketing, word of mouth eventually took into its own. But how did you get, those first initial, and how did that word spread? Do you know?
My first initial customers actually came from my website and Google. What I tell people as far as, just as with CMOS, it was very new. And so a lot of people would just Google CMOS. And if you actually had any type of shop that would pop up, um, and that was a wonderful thing about Saltbox, is that that's how I really started getting my first couple customers. And also just kind of being on Instagram and starting to look at the community as far as the CMOS community. We started talking as far as, because a lot of people didn't have CMOS when I came in, or when I actually started to pick up with business. It was very new. So anybody that had CMOS, it was a small community at the time, and you were probably looking for it at the time, which was, I really didn't have to find my customers at that time. They kind of found me.
Gotcha.
I just had to kind of put myself out to be found, really, at that time. So I kind of came in at the perfect and opportune time, where CMOS was really, really starting to pick up.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I guess maybe related and somewhat off topic, but I'm just curious, like, how did you come up with the idea for, to sell CMOS to begin with?
Okay, so me and my daughter's lactose intolerant. And so she can't take anything that has any lactose. And so we were actually, we've been trying to figure out for like months and months and months different ways we can have cheese, because I stopped using dairy as well, because if she can't use dairy, I'm not using dairy. So we started looking at ways that we could make our own cheese that didn't necessarily have dairy, more of a nut cheese or anything of that nature. But we kept on running across CMOS as a additive or a filler to make it into a mold. Now, I was already aware of CMOS in the early 2000s dealing with Dr. Sebi, and I was taking his products then. However, at that time, I was young and I didn't really know exactly what I was taking. And as time went on, I started to realize I was taking CMOS. So me being me, I actually went on a tear as far as trying to find as much information as I possibly could, the best places, and I'll kind of go into CMOS a little bit. CMOS is actually an algae, it's not a plant, and so a lot of times people will look at it as far as being grown on a rock or anything of that nature, which it does grow on a rock, but it doesn't get its nutrients from rocks. It gets its nutrients from the water that it's actually that actually grows in. So the environment is more of a situation than it growing on rocks. That being said, is that with sea moss, you actually want to find water that was clean, and it was always good to find where volcanic activity was, because the water is a little bit more activated, and that's where we came up with St. Lucia. I actually called St. Lucia probably for 2 months straight, trying to get somebody to talk to me about CMOS and getting CMOS. And finally somebody called me back, and that was the sum of it. And we actually talked for a while as far as because they had a lot of CMOS over there. And, if you're dealing with import export, the importing is really the biggest thing. And so you have to get a lot just to make the importing make sense. So we end up getting, I think our first shipment was 50 pounds, and then we end up just kind of scaling from there.
Wow, that's amazing. I feel like we should do another session with you on sourcing.
Yeah.
But back to the customer service, I just was curious, like you mentioned Amazon. Did you feel like you had to really educate or still educate kind of your customer base on expectations for shipping times? Like if they're, because I'm sure you can get CMOS on Amazon that's probably not as good of quality. And so just saying like, hey, you may not get this the same day you order, but like, it's okay, it's better. Or I don't know, like, can you talk about how you sort of address that?
Yes, well, I actually looked at Amazon as the competition. Even though we knew that most of the quality on Amazon wasn't the best, we knew that people sometimes didn't worry about that. They just wanted to get their product in a certain time. So if we actually could give them a better quality and actually get it to them at the same time frame as Amazon, then that's what we were pitching for. A lot of times in most cases, we are actually quicker than Amazon. If you're on the East Coast, and we are actually now starting to operate off the West Coast. So now on West Coast, we're actually going to be somewhat quicker than Amazon as well, as far as getting CMOS. Most people on Amazon, it takes them 3 to 5 days to get their CMOS. With us, it takes you 2 to 3 days. Unless you're in Georgia, it takes you a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the biggest, like, and because I felt like when we first started out, I was more of I ended up becoming a logistics company. just making sure people got their CMOS in a timely fashion, because I was dealing more with businesses prior than via consumer. And businesses really, they just need their product, because a lot of times they're running out. And so waiting a week really wasn't, that was the, I think that what separated me from a lot of other businesses, because they didn't have the infrastructure that CMOS, that Saltbox gave me. Um, Pretty much I can get an order and have it out in less than 3 minutes.
Yeah,
And so with
love
that being
that.
said,
Yeah,
yeah, and with that being said, is that people really look at that as, because they look at the tracking, they see that their shipment has been scanned and is already into the system. And they've seen that they just ordered a couple hours ago and it's already into the system. It kind of works wonders. A lot of times they actually order right back. Like, okay,
right.
we were wondering if it was going to get to us in the time frame. And when you actually have a time frame where you can actually get your shipment in 2 days, people are somewhat amazed that they get their shipment that fast.
Is do you add anything like to your packaging that you think, like your customers receive and they're like, "Ooh, like that's a nice touch," or do you just like, can you
Yeah.
talk about how you do that?
Well, um, we actually added mailers that we actually got from Sticker Mule. These mailers where you can put your logo on the front, I believe, with any business is actually a plus. And not for sake of the person that's getting the item. It's just the people that are actually seeing the item as it's going through the process of getting there. You have a lot of workers that are actually looking at these like, okay, so what is this? Like, and then next thing you know, you have a random person Googling your shop or
Right.
going to your page, just because they work in the system that's sending your product out. I believe that's big. Even when you go into, like, sometimes if I have to go into USPS and I go in with and I do it every now and then just so people can see it, and I'll go in and just drop off 1 or 2 products that have the mailer on it, that have my logo on the front, and I put them where they can see them. And most of the time they'll ask me, what is this? And
Yeah,
then we go into
I
conversation.
love that. Yeah, it's very like memorable too. So I think that like that's really smart. It's almost like advertising for you that way.
Definitely. And I also see a lot of people here that incorporate it, and so I believe that's wonderful. um, now, now if we want to talk a little bit more about logistics.
Oh wait, just give me 1 second. I think Drea
Okay.
has one more question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Drea. I'm sorry, Drea. I thought that was your hand was from earlier. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I know you are currently talking about logistics, but you mentioned earlier ordering 50 pounds, I believe it was, for your first order.
Yes.
With this being during or, just before the pandemic, how were you able to, what was your second order like? Because you scale up from there, it becomes February, it becomes March. Did you have issues with importing the sea moss here to continue running your business?
I didn't. Well, I did for a quick second. So my first time importing was, wow. It was an experience. I didn't know what I was doing. And so that 50 pounds was like that 50 pounds took me like 2 weeks to get. And so with that 50 pounds, I waited a little bit because I didn't know what to do with it. It was supposed to be a sample, and it was a lot compared to what I already had as far as CMOS, because I was just getting small samples from people. Um, and then I just got a large quantity. With having that large quantity like that, um, I kind of got scared because it was a lot of product. So after my initial being scared for about a good 30 minutes, uh, we really got into, we started making gel, and I really wanted to start off by making gel. That was my initial thing to do, was make gel. And after a day or so of making gel, yeah, no, I had to change. I had to change had to change the strategy because it was a lot of work. And I always commend the people that do make gel because it is a lot of work to make the gel. So I ended up,
You just leave that to flow.
yes, that's Flo's job.
And for
And
those of y'all who don't know, the company he was mentioning earlier is Flow Essentials, and Tevin's on this call. But anyway, carry on. Just
yeah,
wanted
so
to add that.
those are like, yeah, those are my, yeah, those are my right hand. I appreciate those guys to the fullest. So, um, yeah, we actually got 50 pounds and really didn't know what to do with it. So I actually called back to St. Lucia, and was kind of figuring out that I would do like, yeah, I'm doing a smoothie and things of that nature. And there, so it changed kind of quickly because St. Lucia had a different perspective of what they wanted me to do. Their perspective is they wanted me to buy as much as I possibly could and start supplying the United States of America. I thought I was just going to do smoothies. Um, so my second shipment was 250 pounds.
Mhm.
Was still not knowing what I'm going to do, but I just know that my supplier wants a certain thing and I have to give him what he wants. And so to stay to stay in good stay in good standing with my supplier, I end up ordering 250 pounds. After that 250 pounds, um, the pandemic kind of broke. And so once the pandemic broke, um, they were about to shut the borders down. And so before they shut the borders down, my my supplier called me and said that they had uh, pretty much a warehouse full of CMOS that they didn't know what to do with. The border's about to shut, and I told them just send all of it, and
Wow.
and we'll figure it out after that. And so they sent all of it, and I would,
Wow.
and this is where really where the customer service kind of went to a whole nother level because I was riding around Atlanta, and I don't like to say this out loud too much, but I was riding around in Atlanta in a U-Haul delivering CMOS anywhere.
Like to storefronts or to
No,
customers?
to regular people, I would just pull up
Wow.
anywhere, and I would have a U-Haul full of CMOS, and I would just start selling CMOS. That's kind of how I would say I didn't run into Tevin that way. But Tevin actually called me and I would pull up to Tevin in a U-Haul full of CMOS
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
and Tevin and then would
So
and Tevin then would buy up all my, and this is another, I'll go into a story. And Tevin then would buy up all my CMOS to start off. So that's why we came so close, and they introduced me to Saltbox as well.
right, right. So all the CMOS comes to you already dried and everything?
Yes. So it already
Got it.
comes dried. They
Because
actually
they dry it like on the beaches, right?
Yeah, they dry it on the beaches. They actually sun dry it on the beaches, or they naturally air dry it on the beaches. And then once we get it, we actually have to rehydrate it pretty much, and that's how we turn our products out.
Nice. Okay, cool. Does anybody have any questions so far? All right, keep going.
Okay, so um, I guess I'll spend a little bit of the rest of the time actually talking about just connecting with your customers. I When it first starting off, it was a new business, and I wasn't vegan. I and all my most of my client base was vegan, um, to the point where you know, you start eating a certain way, you start adapting to what your customers' uh, lifestyle is. Um, that was my first point of connecting because I wasn't vegan. We stopped eating dairy. However, I love meat. I love beef ribs. I love all that good stuff. And most of my customers at that time did not eat beef ribs. Did not, you know. And so it was one of those situations where it was reconnecting as far as understanding my customers, what they like, what they didn't like. I did a photo shoot, and I don't really like to talk about it, but I did a photo shoot, and I did a CMOS photo shoot, but I had leather bags in it.
Say that again. You had leather bags, you said?
Yes, I had leather bags in the photo shoot for CMOS, and
right. Okay.
that didn't go so well.
And your customers were angry.
Yeah, well, I know the thing is that I did not come out with the photo shoot. The thing is, I did the photo shoot. I was about to put it out, and then I started realizing that a couple of the people that I let see it had the same. I was wondering that, like, okay, how's this gonna go? How's this gonna go about? And we just didn't come up. We just didn't do the photo shoot. So it was more about reconnecting, knowing who my customer base is. And even with CMOS, it was so new that we don't really have a customer base yet. We don't really have just a go-to customer base that you can say, hey, this is what my customer looks like. This is
because I mean, everyone can benefit from it, and you can put it in smoothies and not even taste it. So like, but you wanted to try to think about like a target customer, right?
Yeah, I really wanted to look at a target customer, and there really wasn't a target customer because it being so new, and there's so many different products, and the reason why is is for everybody because there's so many different products that you can make. Gel is just the major product right now that you can make, but there's gummy bears, there's anything that's topical. Like people are making soaps, people are making body washes, creams, things of that nature that are actually implemented because it's actually one of the best exfoliants that you can do. It's wonderful as far as a natural collagen. And so these things were I started to learn as far as even with dealing with women. One thing I've also learned is that a lot of people will state that they rather put it on their skin and rather than put it in their mouth. And so now you have to start looking at the dynamics of that as far as what your customers are willing to do. So that kind of set it up to where I think we have somebody in the lobby too. That's why we have it set up to where
Jordan's gonna go check on him.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, I'm probably gonna look at him in just a second. So, okay, what was I saying? And my customer service ended up getting it.
Yeah, and just how like your product, maybe you think about targeting different people based on trends as they evolve, and like if thinking about like skin products versus ingesting it and all of that.
So yeah, so this is a wonderful time for me to kind of talk about the products that I'm coming out with. Skincare products, bath scrubs for women. I kind of started looking at as one thing that really, if you started off in the CMOS industry, that wasn't something that you looked at a year ago. So that's something that came up. Low body creams. I didn't know how big body cream was. And this is me talking as far as a man and getting into an industry that somewhat women kind of run. I didn't know how big body cream was. Like, no, seriously, I didn't know how big body cream was. And so now I'm connecting to another customer base as far as with body cream. It's phenomenal. Not to mention.
And I imagine like the consistency of the gel would feel so nice. It's like thick.
Yes. Well, the thing is that what we end up doing, we end up not doing it with gel. We end up doing it with the CMOS powder. And so it actually is a lot better. I didn't know how big body cream was. So getting into body cream, getting into, my wife now makes soaps because I didn't know how much women love beautiful soap. Like these are things that I did not know but as far as with customer service now, I'm understanding that well, this is just to say that most of my customers are women. most of my customers end up being women. And with them end up being women, they end up getting their men to try my products. So I found out that's what's my fan base, and that's what we started to go with. Because
Yeah. Well,
women
and
love
you
their skin.
mentioned, yeah, well, but like, and back even to like you think about how you found it, you know, is through your children,
Exactly.
and wanting something healthier for your children. And I forget the lady's name, but the lady who came in that makes all the flavored gels.
Oh
And
yes.
she, you know, she kind of stumbled upon that just by like wanting something healthier for her family. So
Definitely.
yeah, did it when you started realizing that kind of trend, did it switch how you targeted your customers at all?
Yes, it did. When we first started off, only thing we really knew was gel. Is just take it, ingest it. I didn't know the properties of as far as topical, and so when it went into topical and went more from uh, everybody product to now more is more centered to women. Um, and that was a big thing. That actually, once we actually centered that, as far as even with damaged skins and things of that nature, and we were able to kind of pinpoint as far as what we want to do for this year. Uh, and
Cool.
it worked out perfect. So yeah, most of the things that we're doing this year is topical, with the CMOS, even
And
with
so
the.
do you think you'll try to target some of your current customers already, or, you know, how do you think like you'll go about that?
Yeah, I think with my customer base right now is like, the more we come out with is almost like an all factor, like, oh, you can do that. And so, um yeah, we're just trying to push the envelope as far as with CMOS, and be creative with it. uh I think the soaps I'm getting good responses from the soaps, so I'm very pleased with that. um we have a new formula coming out that I really don't talk about yet, as far as something that we're doing that will be coming out within the next couple months, that will actually help us out as far as with our customer services, even with the products that we have coming out. um, so I'm excited about that. I really can't talk because if you know me, I talk too much, and people around me tell me I can't talk about the new stuff I have coming.
No worries. Well, be sure to share it when you're able. We would love to know.
Definitely.
Are there any other like kind of just tricks that you learned along the way, and you know, things that you think other members at Saltbox might benefit from, like implementing, especially like a business that's starting out new?
Uh, well, there's one thing I always remember about my customers is, first of all, say their name 3 times when you first meet them. Um, and it sticks in your head, it sticks in their head that you remember their name. That's the one thing. Second thing is that I always try to remember one key thing about any conversation that we have, or any email that came up, and that's how I kind of remember them. Um, so uh, it's saying that if you have a daughter that's 5 years old, I'll remember that, and
Yeah.
that's how I'll remember. That's I'll look at you. I'll remember. Oh, you have a daughter that's 5 years old. Okay, how's your daughter? And it's just that one key phrase that may change, as far as how they look at you, because now they know you have a lot of customers. And so to just remember one good thing about them, or one thing as far as the conversation that you've had beforehand, or anything of that nature, is really key. Um, Now I'm getting to that point where I am having to step back away from doing a lot of the customer service and things of that nature. So I'm starting to want to get other people that have the same mentality of wanting to know about the people that are coming into this business. So I think that's the next stage, as far as with our business and where we're going.
Yeah. Do you think so for your member or your customers that you have picking up at Saltbox? Do you just give the option on your website to do pickup instead of shipping?
Yes, I do. A lot of them will call, and with CMOS being so new, they'll ask, can they come see it before they actually purchase? And I give them that option to come see, especially if you're actually doing wholesale. I definitely want you to come see, ask any questions you possibly can. I'll try to
So
keep you.
do you have your number listed on your website?
Yes, I do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I try to keep you as long as I possibly can when you get here, so that you have any questions, anything that you have to ask, or any questions about CMOS, we try to get out the way as soon as possible, so they can actually start their journey. So yeah, I love it when people come see me.
Yeah, that's really interesting because, I think for a lot of our members, it's members at Saltbox, it's very much like online orders only. And so you're kind of in a unique position, but for them to be able to see your product probably ahead of time is really nice.
Yeah,
So
well,
I wonder,
I think that's what I'm so customer service that it's hard for me not to want my customers to come in. And I know during the pandemic, that was the biggest thing, is that there was no connection as far as,
right.
So I was trying to gather as much of a connection, because you can get a connection over the phone, you can get a connection via emails and things of that nature. But when people come see you, it's totally different. I've always been in, if I get you here, I can sell you. And that was the major thing as far as, if I can get you here, then we can sell you. So that was big.
Yeah.
If I may, are we unmuted?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Ricky, I think it was last week when I was working in your warehouse unit, you had that lady come in, and from what I overheard, it seemed that after you explaining to her and helping her really feel confident about getting her business off the ground, she increased what she was going to purchase from you, did she not?
Actually, yes, she did. A lot of times they come in and really are just looking to actually purchase a sample, maybe even just look, just to see if the business is legit or not. Once they actually look at that, and once they come in, they really see, Saltbox actually does a phenomenal job of selling it before they even get into the warehouse. So with that being said, once they actually get to my warehouse space, the funny thing is that the conversation is more of Saltbox than CMOS. So once they get into, so it's like, oh, this is where the space is. Yeah, and I kind of give them the spill on how this has helped my business out. And then we go into, okay, this is the CMOS section. Now, once we get into that part, they see it's really more of a seeing how the business operates and seeing now that they can do it, because a lot of times their vision is, I don't know what to do next. I'm gonna do it at my house, and they come in the Saltbox and their vision starts to come up. And then they start to see the CMOS. And so now they see a CMOS business in a warehouse space that makes sense. Not to mention they see how easy it is for me to walk around the corner and drop off CMOS to USPS, to UPS, and things of that nature. So yeah, she definitely increased her order, and actually she ordered again, to be honest with you too. So it was a wonderful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ricky. I would love if anyone has any other questions, like feel free to chime in now. Otherwise, you can find Ricky's phone number on his website.
Yeah.
Or you can find him on Slack.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything you want to close with, Ricky?
I just wish everybody at Saltbox much success. I thank Saltbox for everything it's done for my business. I see the growth as far as with Saltbox, and that's phenomenal as well. I'm holding out for your Los Angeles warehouse to pop up. So
we have a couple Atlanta members who are right there with you, so they'll be the first ones. We'll be transcontinent.
So because I just got back from Atlanta and we were looking for spaces, and then when I came back, they're like, no, Saltbox is getting something in LA. I'm like, okay, well, I'm okay. I can get temporary. I can get temporary spots. Yeah, I can get temporary spots. So that's perfect. So that's wonderful.
Amazing.
That was good news coming back.
Great. Well, I hope you had a good trip.
I
Hope
definitely
it wasn't a waste.
I'm somewhat jet lagged, but you know, it's all good.
Nice. Well, thank you. Thanks everybody for joining, and we will see y'all next week.
I appreciate it.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.